Hello, Team Bhutar. This is Dawn Aronoff, and I've got my documentation and assimilation for the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. And this book was amazing. It's kind of like a guidebook. I would say that imagine you were going to go, for me, imagining I'm going to a foreign country and I'm going to see a lot of sites and a lot of destinations and I want to understand what they are. This is like your guidebook to leadership. This tells you how to recognize leadership and what types of things you should be striving for leadership. And there's tons of great stories in here. And every single chapter seemed to have an amazing lesson. But I also know myself, and I know that I cannot assimilate 21 separate laws. So there were a couple of things that popped out to me, and I wrote down a couple of quotes that I feel that are critical for me where I am in my business. The first thing was the definition, is leadership is influence. It is nothing more, nothing less. And so when I was thinking about that quote, I was like, leadership is influence. Well, lo and behold, last month we read How to Win Friends and Influence People. So when I'm thinking about assimilation, I'm not thinking about just what I'm going to do with this book. I'm going to think about how am I going to take the lessons from How to Win Friends and Influence People and apply them to the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. So all of those things that we talked about last month about smiling, for me personally, it's about not giving orders, it's about slowing down, asking questions, being interested, not interesting, all of those things that we learned in How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is the basis of leadership. I'm going to apply those to the book of 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And so there were a couple of laws that I felt really right now in my journey that are very important, pardon me, for me to pay attention to. And the first one was the law of navigation. And that's first-rate navigators always have in mind that other people are depending on them and their ability to chart a good course. And so for me, as as a person who's earned a ruby pin and has that in name, it is that I've got to be exactly what Z is always talking about, be who you say you are. So I need to be earning my ruby pin, but more than that, I need to be hitting my pay period goals because I've got to navigate and chart that course for my team. So that is one thing that I took really seriously. The second one was the law of magnetism. And this one was like looking in the mirror and shining a flashlight at every single one of your flaws, or trying to recognize what's holding you back, but also giving recognition to the things that are good and helping in success. And that was the law of magnetism. And this was the quote that stood out there: is what you get is not determined by what you want, it's determined by who you are. And I think that for me personally, when I look at other leaders in Advocare, yeah, of course we want to know what they're doing, we want to know what they're saying, we want to know who they're talking to, but probably the thing that really strikes most of us is who these people are, their presence, their solidness, their confidence, and knowing that who you are is going to attract the people that you want. It's not about who do you want on your team, but who are you in this business? And I ask myself, who am I in this business? And am I attracting the right people? And if I'm not attracting the right people, then I need to go back and not look at my team and not look at my leadership. I need to look at myself. So that law of magnetism really stuck out for me. And the last one was the law of sacrifice. And this quote was something that I read yesterday and really could not stop thinking about it. And that quote was, when you become a leader, you lose the right to think about yourself. And I don't think that's meant in a way that you don't value yourself. To me, what that means is that it is always about my team. It's always going to be about helping somebody else. It's not going to be about my, of course I have my goals, but an understanding that I can only hit my goals by helping somebody else accomplish theirs. And I also took that as a lesson for that when I'm feeling like I'm in a slump or I feel like my momentum is not on my side, what I'm going to tend to do is have a pity party and think about myself. And the best, fastest, easiest way for me to get out of that mode is to go think of someone else. So that quote in itself, so these were the quotes that really, really stuck with me, is that leadership is influence, nothing more and nothing less. And always understand that I'm working on my influence. And this, I'd say this is my guidebook of what it looks like. This is my manual on what I'm going to do next. That's how I'm going to assimilate those two things. So we've got that, the law of navigation, the law of magnetism. Who you get is not determined by what you want, it's determined by who you are. And finally, that last one that's really sunk in with me is when you become a leader, you lose the right to think about yourself. So I'm going to continue. My goal is that as we read these books is not just to assimilate the information from one book for 1 month, but to kind of see this as an assignment that's building on itself. Not just an assignment, but my leadership is going to be building on itself, and that these books work together. Thanks. Bye-bye.